So today I want to talk about the proper ways to test your battery and alternator. There's some common misconceptions I keep hearing on how to test these things, some of which can lead to inaccurate results or even damage to some vehicle electronics. I'm going to describe two of the incorrect methods that I hear most commonly, starting with the voltmeter test. While a voltmeter can confirm whether a battery or alternator is putting out the correct voltage, it cannot load test the system. Even a weak battery and alternator can still put out the correct 12 to 14 volts while still being unable to supply enough current to run the starter or other vehicle electronics. Relying on this test alone can cause people to erroneously suspect that the starter is bad when it's actually the battery. The second incorrect test is trying to remove one of the battery terminals while the engine is running. The idea is to see if the alternator can output enough power to keep the engine running on its own without the battery. But you should never ever do that for a variety of reasons, because doing so may damage some very expensive electronics like the engine control module. It can also cause problems on older non-computer controlled engines, like damaging the alternator's voltage regulator. You also run the risk of the removed terminal coming in contact with something that it shouldn't while it still has live voltage running through it. The correct way to test both of these systems is using a load tester like this one. While this device has a voltmeter built in, it also has this large resistive element for putting an actual load on the system. So we'll just connect this to the battery terminals. Red for positive, black for negative. Now you can see we have voltage reading. With the engine off, you should see about 12 volts. This particular battery is showing kind of high at 13 volts, but that's okay. When the engine is running and the alternator is charging, you should see it go up to 14 volt range. However, some vehicles disable charging to save fuel, so it is possible to see 12 volts while the alternator is still perfectly healthy. Now if I push this switch, this closes the circuit to the resistive element and puts a load on the system, and that's the key differentiator between using a voltmeter alone and using a device like this. You should only hold the switch down for about 5 seconds. 10 seconds at the absolute maximum, and it's normal to see a bit of smoke coming from the resistive element. On a healthy system, you'll see the voltage drop a little, but it will remain constant. If the system is weak, you'll see the voltage drop pretty quickly, even though it's showing that it has a healthy voltage. I put the load on it, it goes all the way down to 6 volts. Now with the engine running, you should hear the engine speed drop a little as the alternator increases load to meet the current demand. This indicates that the alternator is healthy, as long as you don't also see a steep voltage drop. If the engine speed does not change, you should further investigate the alternator. If you do have the type of car that disables charging to save fuel, the engine RPM will still drop because the computer detects the load and engages the alternator. These tests can save you a lot of time and guesswork, which is the reason why I always start with these tests when diagnosing a starting or charging issue. I'll put a link in the video description where you can buy a tester like this one. I prefer this type of tester because it's as straightforward as it gets, and the large resistive element more accurately mimics the load of a starter when compared to the digital ones. So anyways, I hope this video was helpful, and as always, thanks for watching.